Welcome to our 2023 Coast to Coast Know Before You Go. I'm Naj Alakan. And as we get started here, we start with a big thank you. Thank you for your advocacy in Washington, D.C. on behalf of students and your school communities. Your ability to tell stories, your ability to bring real life understanding to what's happening in your school communities into these one-on-one discussions with lawmakers and their staff. Well, that will hopefully pave the way for you to have long-term relationships with your elected leaders and long-term benefits for your students. Now, here's what's going to happen in this video today. We're going to go through advocacy tips, what you need to know about your trip east. And of course, we're going to talk about the main issues that you'll be advocating on at the U.S. Capitol. First, let's talk about the program and your advocacy opportunities. Joining us today, Dennis Myers. He's the Assistant Executive Director of Governmental Relations for the California School Boards Association. Dennis, welcome. Let's talk about the Monday schedule as well as the congressional meetings beginning Tuesday. What do our participants need to know?
Naj, thank you. And again, thank you to our participants. We're going to be more than 250 strong in DC, so this really is an exciting opportunity. So to kind of tee things up, on Monday, as before, that's our briefing day. So that's time when we are really focusing in on fine-tuning our messaging. So most of the day will be our advocates there in rooms talking about the issues, briefing all of you about the information and the messaging to take, I'll say, down the street, over to the Capitol. But we do have some special guests coming at the beginning. We'll start the day with our national pollster, Celinda Lake. She was with us last year, but she will be reporting on a poll that is just fresh out of the field that we commissioned on attitudes nationally, but also in California about public education. We'll also be visited by one of the administrators on the school nutrition program from the U.S. Department of Education. And then we're still working on fine-tuning the program. So we may have some special guests pop in because we're still working on all of this right now. But then what we'll do is we will close out Monday with kind of just a general session with some last-minute lobbying tips, things that everyone's going to need to know when they do get to their Hill meetings. Including time for all of you to gather in your groups. We've got 52 congressional districts, and I think they're all represented by our group there in Washington. So everybody will need to just kind of go off and meet in their own groups to kind of get to know each other and just kind of familiarize themselves with each other and the issues and how those meetings will go. And then Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday morning, we do have some program, but then Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday, it really is focusing on the Hill meetings. So things we just need you to know, mostly we'll just give you that information on Monday. And then we will also give you your meetings, time, place, which house office building you're going to be in, the time, what the room number is, then also include the names of the people that will be in those meetings with you. And then just on that, the main thing is there may be, we have tried to steer everything to Wednesday and then Tuesday afternoon. But a few members of Congress said, hey, we can only meet at this time. So we just want you to know that those Hill meetings take precedence over anything that we may be doing at the hotel. So Monday, there's no conflicts, but there may be a couple of conflicts on Tuesday. And then hopefully Wednesday will be wide open for everything focusing on the Hill.
And Dennis, before our participants head east, we're going to put them to work. Let's talk about some homework assignments before they arrive in Washington.
Naj, that's a good point, because you will be getting the issue papers emailed to you. We're going to hear from Erica and from Diana. The thing is look at the issue papers, please read them, just kind of get familiar with the information. And then certainly the most powerful thing is, one, stay on message, obviously, but two is to have some local stories. So as you look at the issue papers, if there's local data, a local story you can tell, a brochure about a program, something like that, bring that with you as you prepare to come into the meetings. There may be 5 of you in a meeting or 10 of you in a meeting, but there will be time then to kind of strengthen the message on a specific issue with a local story or two. And if there isn't time to share that, on your way out, you can say, hey, I brought this other information from my county office of education or from my school district to go along with the information we talked about today. So whether you're able to talk about it or just leave it behind, it really adds kind of that personal focus, that personal touch to all of our advocacy.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thank you, Dennis. That is Dennis Myers, the Assistant Executive Director of Governmental Relations for the California School Boards Association. Dennis, thanks so much. Let's go ahead and bring in another one of our colleagues today, Ivan Carrillo. He is ACSA Senior Director of Policy and Governmental Relations. He has his finger on the pulse of what's going to be going on at this event. Ivan, we just talked to Dennis. We heard about the tips. We heard about the homework. We heard about kind of the schedule for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But beyond all of that, we've got an incredible program happening with a number of speakers coming in. Tell us about that.
Yeah, no, this is an area that we're really excited about because we have a great lineup of speakers for our general sessions. So we have Javier Becerra confirmed. Mr. Becerra is the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services. He's one of the highest ranking Californians within President Biden's administration. We have James Lane, the Acting Assistant Secretary of the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education within the U.S. Department of Education, overseeing all things kindergarten through 12th grade within the department. Kevin Kiley is another speaker. He's from California, a congressional member. He holds a key position on the critically important House Committee on Education and Workforce. We also have Cindy Long confirmed, administrator within the U.S. Department of Agricultural, Food and Nutrition Service. And her office is overseeing everything related to National School Lunch Program and all things school nutrition. So just collectively, we have some really high-ranking officials that are going to be speaking on the issues that are top of mind, that are important to our schools and the students we serve.
And Ivan, just listening to that lineup of speakers, is there one in particular you're most interested in hearing from, especially when we're talking about the connections between school leaders here in California and the decisions being made in Washington?
Yeah, no, I'm excited for all of them, but I'm particularly interested in hearing from Dr. James Lane. And not only does he have an important leadership role within the U.S. Department of Education, but Dr. Lane was in the shoes of school administration, of our members, of ACSA members, former site leader, assistant principal and principal, district leader, was a school superintendent, served as the state superintendent of public instruction in the state of Virginia. So he has a long track record within public education. So I'm just really interested to hear from Dr. Lane.
All right, Ivan Carrillo. Ivan, thank you so much. Sounds like this is going to be a great lineup. Ivan, ACSA Senior Director of Policy and Governmental Relations. Have a great rest of the day. Let's go ahead and bring in our two next guests. We're going to talk about advocacy issues for this Coast to Coast conference and what you'll be advocating on. Erica Hoffman is the Deputy Legislative Director of State and Federal Programs with the California School Boards Association, and Diana Vu, Legislative Advocate for the Association of California School Administrators. Erica and Diana, it's great to have you both here. We're going to go a little rapid fire because we have so many advocacy points that we want to get to, so many topics, and we want to make sure we give our viewers the opportunity to hear from them. Erica, let's start with you. Let's talk about special education.
Well, special ed is a long and familiar topic for everybody. The big issue is getting Congress to finally pay the 40% promise that they've always said that they want to do. There will be legislation introduced this year. It has not been crossed the desk yet, but we need to continue to push members of Congress to vote for that, to live up to the promise of providing the funding so that we can do the programs that we need for all of our special education students, including the increased funding for the preschool and the infant and toddler programs. Because those are just as important, as we've taken a greater focus here in the state to point to the younger students so that hopefully by the time they get further along in their education, they don't need as many services as they do when they're older. So that's kind of special education. We always ask that you bring those thoughts and promise or ideas and funding issues with you, because Congress really needs to know how big of an impact their lack of funding has on your district budgets and the impact that has on the other programs that you offer for all students.
All right.
So that's kind
Diana,
of the highlight on special ed, Naj.
Let me shift over to Diana really quickly. Diana, let's dive into the issue of supporting our educators and decreasing the educator shortages. What do our viewers need to know?
Yeah, sure. So thank you so much, Naj. Well, they should know that we are trying to ask for increased funding for educator preparation and development programs. And as Dennis said earlier, I mean, local data is always so helpful. So ACSA and CSBA members will be meeting with their congressional representatives who represent their district. This means their constituents, and that the lawmakers want to hear from them and what's going on in their community. So for this educator shortage, I think again, like that personal experience, those challenges in regarding hiring or retaining your staff and the difficulty keeping your classrooms open, I think these will be really impactful for them to hear and hopefully make a difference when advocating for these increased dollars.
Erica, let's go back to you and talk about mental health. Such an important topic here in this country, and we're going to have the opportunity to advocate on the topic of mental health.
Mental health has become, with the pandemic, an even larger issue than it was before. And the president has and the administration have put a great focus on mental health with regards to increased funding through the bipartisan Communities Act that was just signed into law not too long ago. There's about $1 billion for education funding for mental health services. So that's going to be a large issue that will be a focus of Secretary Becerra's talk with us on Tuesday. It's always good, though, to let Congress know that it's not just full mental health services, but also the prevention and intervention services that are needed. So that's something you can bring, be it multi-tiered systems of support for students, increasing social and emotional learning opportunities for students. That's the information you need to bring to Congress, because it's not just providing a mental health counselor, but it's all of the other issues to help students to be able to deal with education and succeed in school.
Mm-hmm. Diana, let me ask you about advocating for an alternative status accountability waiver. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so sure. So the federal government has denied California an alternative accountability waiver. So that way alternative schools can be measured on a different standard than traditional schools, which is what they're forced to do now. And this is going to penalize them year over year. What we want is for our Congress members to really understand from a local perspective who alternative education students are, the struggles they face to graduate, and how alternative schools are supporting them. We'd love it if you could explain because of their unique circumstances, why alternative schools are being unfairly penalized, and why they shouldn't be measured on the same criteria as traditional schools. So with that, we're hoping to be able to try and secure a waiver.
Erica, technology has become such a huge subject during the pandemic and obviously after the pandemic. Let's talk about the issues related to broadband and cybersecurity.
But broadband and cybersecurity have become big issues. And part of that is, with the pandemic, we all went to distance learning and found out really quickly that there are a lot of problems both in the connectivity to broadband services and also then providing students with the safety that they need to keep their data secure at a school site. So what we are doing is pushing to increase funding for the Emergency Connectivity Fund so that we can still increase the ability to get broadband into homes, into communities where our students live and work, because this will address the homework gap issue that we are facing for our students. One of the other issues when it comes to cybersecurity is how can we get more secure systems? How can we protect student data? There is a privacy data or a data privacy bill that will be going through Congress. We just want to make sure that it doesn't lessen any of the current privacy requirements we have here in California, but that it does provide assistance to school districts in order to deal with ransomware and cyber attacks that are occurring, and unfortunately are occurring in an increased manner throughout all of our schools. One piece to let Congress know: we've got over about 6 million kids. We've got over 500,000 employees. That's a lot of data that gets put on the web.
Yeah.
And without cybersecurity constraints around it that you as districts will have access to or need access to, we're putting a lot of stuff out there that really puts our families and our communities on the line. So that's the type of thing in cybersecurity that we're looking for. And just as I said, increasing E-rate funding, increasing the access that families have in addition to the access schools need.
Okay. Diana, let's hit the topic nutrition.
Yeah, so absolutely. So this one probably seems a little odd because California already has universal meals. But some of the things we will be advocating on is items that will make it easier for California to implement. So it'll increase the federal reimbursement rate so that those fundings can be used for other things. We also want to delay any changes to the school nutrition standard, as well as the USDA has started proposing quite a number of stricter changes. And for this issue area, this is something that our members want to probably chat with their nutrition directors about beforehand, to be able to get concrete examples on supply chain issues, increased costs, and the difficulties that would entail if there were new stricter nutrition standards.
And Erica, last one for you: reauthorization of secure rural schools. What can you tell us?
Secure Rural Schools is a program that's been around for over 100 years. It started out with counties, but it also now includes schools. And it's for those districts that are heavily impacted by federal forest land. If you have federal designated forest land, you don't have a tax base. And without the tax base, you then aren't able to offer your programs. So the Secure Rural Schools Act provides money to counties, split 50-50 between counties and school districts. Counties use it for predominantly roads, transportation. Schools, though, use it a lot for transportation. They use it for programming. There are 39 counties that are impacted by Secure Rural Schools. And for a lot of you, it probably isn't anywhere on your radar. But for the smaller districts that are coming, for a lot of our rural districts, this is a huge funding piece. And we need to strongly urge Congress to basically reauthorize the program and to reauthorize it for a long period of time. I'm talking like 5 to 8 years. Over the last 10 years, it's been in chunks of 2 or 3 years on the reauthorization. Yeah. We need some stability, both for school districts and for counties. As we know that with forest fires and everything else, the impact that this has had on our schools has been huge. This is the funding they need to be able to provide the services to our kids up in the rural areas. So we'll be looking for that for hopefully reauthorization.
Erica Hoffman from CSBA, Diana Vu from ACSA, thank you so much for joining us today on this video. Thanks again. As we move towards the end of our program here, a few things that you need to know before you go east. We'll bring these topics up for you right now. Our pre-conference tour information: if you are registered for the pre-conference tour on April 23rd, please plan to load into buses outside of the hotel entrance. For registration, attendees can pick up credentials as early as Sunday afternoon. Our registration desk is open at the hotel from 2 to 6 p.m. on April 23rd. There's also a welcome reception Sunday evening from 5 to 7. So if you pick up your badges in time, join us for some light appetizers. There's a Capitol Hill shuttle that will transport our attendees round trip from the hotel to Capitol Hill and back for meetings on Tuesday and Wednesday. The shuttle schedule is posted on the Coast2Coast app, which is available now for download. Don't miss out on that. And of course, if you have any questions, you can email them to coast2coast@csba.org. That is our Coast2Coast Know Before You Go update. Thank you so much for being with us today. We hope you enjoy your trip east. And thank you for your commitment and your time to serving students.